notes correctly. Come on in, ask your questions. If you're seeing this after the fact, you can always post questions in the chat. I try to answer them. But today, we are going to be doing a live Q&A. It's Friday. I normally book free calls in the afternoon, and today I had some openings, so I figured I would do an Ask Me Anything. So if you've got questions about ADUs, this is the right time to ask. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take that, put it right here, and put a big sticker here. It says, Ask Me Anything. Hey, welcome into the room. You're the first one in. No pressure. Ask a question. You'll make my day. Gold on red. That does not show up. So pop a question in the chat and I'll answer any questions you have about accessory dwelling units or what I'm working on or what's coming down the pipe legislatively. We're all excited. It's the season when laws get passed. And so we've got a lot of legislative efforts that are coming to fruition, like SB 79. Come on in, ask your questions. It would be a pleasure to answer some questions live in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just babbling. It's 3 o'clock on a Friday. It's babble time. Unless you ask a good question, I'd love to help you with your ADU project. No matter what the question is, sometimes your question will help other people. Plus, this video goes up for a long time afterwards. You never know who you're helping. So ask your questions in the chat. Can you even hear me? That's also always an important one because sometimes I go live and it turns out the microphone is coming from the wrong device. So I just need to know that you can hear me. What is up? Hey, Cameron. Thanks for all the videos on the subject. My great pleasure. KVK TV. You were told no more two-story ADUs by the city. True. Ooh, KVK, what city? That is false. While I don't like giving giant broad stroke advice, when people say that two-story ADUs are over citywide, that is highly dubious. XT, hi from Orlando. That's exciting. You know, I'm from Tampa, Florida. That's where I grew up, or in Lutz, Florida, kind of around the Tampa Bay. So I have a lot of friends in Orlando and Tampa, maybe some even in Miami. But if you have any Florida questions, I'm uneducated, but I'm happy to look it up and talk about it. Or advocacy points. There's actually really strong YIMBY advocacy groups in Florida, especially around Tampa and Orlando. KVK TV, it was Fullerton. Fullerton, California is telling you that two-story ADs are over. They are fuller something, but not ton. I've got one of the longtime moderators in our Facebook group, which has over 130,000 people in it now. Is in Fullerton and is running into all kinds of obstacles. Get it in writing and use the form to communicate with the HCD, Housing and Community Development. Report that problem to them. And just when you're submitting the form, you want to give all the details, like who you spoke to specifically, like what staff member, how to contact them. If you want to include your permit number, you can. You also want to be explicit, either give them permission to use your specific project as an example when they're talking to the city, or don't give them that permission. Like say, please don't mention me, but pick one or the other. I often give permission, and tell the HCD. Yeah. It was my architect. They sent an email saying to Nomas from Fullerton Planning. Yeah, the Fullerton Planning. They can say that's true about a specific project for a number of reasons, but to say no categorically is bizarre because there's 3 different reasons you could build 2 stories with an ADU in any city around California. And for Fullerton to say none of those 3 exists in this entire city, very dubious, very dubious. XT, your New York transplant to Florida, you know, a common tale. I'm not gonna not going to make any stereotypes here, but we know a few New Yorkers who moved to Florida. My dad moved down to Florida from Massachusetts. That was his trajectory. So another classic snowbird, right? Peter Castellanos, are basements allowed in ADUs? Ooh, that's a great question, Peter. So it depends, right? If you have a basement, it could definitely become an ADU. But when you build an ADU, can you put in a basement? In California, it's very common to do raised structures with either a basement or a subfloor. That is up to the discretion of the local jurisdiction. They have to allow the ADU up to certain sizes and respecting certain rules, but they do not have to allow the basement. The way I see this even more commonly is, can I build a 2-car garage in addition to my ADU? Or can I put a 2-car garage under my ADU? And even though California has very progressive rules, I've seen major obstacles. As soon as you try to do unconditioned space, like a basement or a garage, in addition to the ADU, suddenly there's all these problems. And because you're leaving that like well-defined niche of the ADU, sometimes the state agency, Housing and Community Development, can't help you. Sometimes you need to lawyer up. One case in I'll just say the South Bay, a planning commissioner who is a good YIMBY has found that her own project is blocked because she wants to provide off-street parking. And it's crazy because the #1 complaint that her neighborhood has about accessory dwelling units is that they don't require parking. Here she is trying to put in parking underneath the ADU in good faith, and the same neighborhood is stopping her. So they're like, don't build ADUs without parking. And then as soon as you try to propose parking, they're like, no, you can't have parking. Classic California NIMBY story. All right, so JJ, any new developments on AB 2533, getting an unpermitted JADU to permitted status? So careful, JJ. AB 2533, last I checked, is about ADUs, right? It's about unpermitted ADUs. I don't think we included language about juniors in 2533. Let me look it up real fast. So just be real careful about that. And you're never trying to bring up a JADU. You're trying to get a permit for an ADU, right? Let me just look up to make sure that that's true, because this is not legal advice. I'm wrong. I'm dead wrong. It's about JADUs too. So, yeah, okay. Well, that shows what I know. I don't know why I got that idea, but dead wrong. Never mind. Scratch all that. So, if you have a JADU or an ADU that's unpermitted, you can use AB 2533 to bring it up to code, right? And the updates, you're asking for updates because I've published a couple videos already. The other videos are just about how, like, so the city has to publish a list of things that you need to do, and the city needs to give you a specific process to bring that unpermitted unit out of the shadows and into the light of day. And I did a couple videos. So if you saw the most recent video with a list of all the jurisdictions' requirements, that's the most recent thing I've published. I do know that people are working on guidance for cities, and so that once that guidance is issued, we can go back to cities and say, like, hey, maybe you need to improve your process or improve your checklist of requirements, but that has not been published yet. And the other thing I know is I got one city that's seriously misbehaving. They have already come up on this live, very humorously enough, but I won't name names until they're in serious trouble. Cameron says, curious on your thoughts about what to look for as a hopeful first-time homebuyer in the LA market. Would love to buy a lot split or TIC place, but wondering if looking for a viable ADU spot is ideal. Yeah, that's a great question, Cameron. Not financial advice for your specific situation. I think right now, if it's your first house, just getting on that property ladder, man, it made such a difference in my life to get a mortgage on a house when I did. And I got in at 10% down payment on a nice small old house in Napa. And naturally, so it's a 1952 house, and it's 1,200 square feet or something like that. And so that's what we call naturally affordable. Because it's old and because it's smaller, it was relatively cheap. Everything in California is expensive, but it was relatively cheap. And then that let me put the 10% down with my wife. We'd saved up enough. And since then, the house has increased in value tremendously. We've been able to pull equity out of the house, invest that in other things, and it's been such a game changer. We were renters before this house. We were renting an apartment about the same size, but brand new. And that apartment today costs more than my mortgage plus upkeep on the house. So buying made a huge difference. How you make it work, just in my case, if I could tell myself anything, it would be, Ryan, make it work. Don't try to get clever. Don't try to time the market. Just find what you can afford to buy, because everything has gone up in value. And so I could have made a terrible mistake and still it would have panned out on this time horizon of about 7 years. Today, I still face the same doubt as back then. And so do I look for a tenancy in common like you're asking? Do I buy a lot split? If I had all the rules available today that were back then, I probably would have found a house where I could split the lot, but no guarantees. Like I wasn't thinking about that then, and I'm glad I got the house I did. And whatever you can do to make it work, make it work. Buying a corner lot with a big backyard, knowing that you can split the lot, very clever. Make sure you use a loan originator that clears you for the separate sale of the backyard. So you don't want to have to go to your lender and ask for a partial lien release. Get that built into the original agreement. That's not obvious. So maybe, national banks like Umpqua do that partial lien release. So I bet they would do it in the origination, in the original loan. Find a lender who knows what they're doing, or a broker who knows what they're doing, and make sure that that's all built in if you're going to get clever. The other one I'm looking at right now is there's a commercial. There are a lot of houses that have been converted into offices in the area where I live, and those offices have perfect residential real estate. Sometimes they get listed, but only on commercial listings, and they're not on the residential MLS. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to find one of these one day where it makes sense. Because if it still has a working kitchen and bathroom, I go get an FHA 203K loan or something that lets me put down like 3.5%. And then I'm cooking. So that's another clever type. Although it's easier as a second investment because I have time to convert it into a home before moving in. Like to get the FHA 203K, I need it to be my primary, but it's like 7 offices in a bathroom. So until I can like make the kitchen work, it's a little awkward. But yeah, that's another one that you can be on the lookout for. Oh, and there's a county by county maximum cap on what those primary home loans can be. So like in Napa, it happens to be about $1 million, and a lot of the commercial properties are more expensive than that. So then I need to find some way to finance the rest of it if it's over $1 million, which is crazy that I'm talking about numbers like that, but that is life in California. Okay, KVK, can you explain how people were able to sell their ADU? How's the lot split? Was there a loan on the main property? So right now in California, the primary way to sell your ADU is if you live in a city that has adopted separate conveyance. So San Jose is the big one, but there's a list of them. I think I have that list right here. Somewhere. It's not right next to me. Oh, here it is. You guys get to see how messy my office is as I dig up this list. So the Casita Coalition put out a document. San Jose, Santa Cruz, Berkeley, San Diego, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, and San Francisco have adopted AB 1033, which lets you sell your ADU separately. And in those cases, it's not a lot split. No, it's what's called condoization. So in those cities, they've adopted rules that allow, under specific circumstances that are different by city, it allows the landowner to create a plat map, a condo map of the lot, the way you would condominiumize something. And if you look up my videos about AB 1033, I've had Rafael Perez on. I've done a video in Austin, Texas with Julie, who's done thousands of those ADU sales in Austin. And on Earth Advantage's channel, I actually edited a video by a guy named Terry, I forget. It's on Earth Advantage's channel. It's about ADU condoization. And he's the attorney who's done tons of them up there. So that's how you sell your ADU separately most of the time. Although I've also heard of people doing SB9 lot splits where the ADU gets split off, or they build a new primary with an ADU. And that's another way to do separate commands. And not legal advice for your specific situation. Your results may vary. Paul Forbes, about 90 minutes north of Orlando is Ocala, where I have a rental home. I live in New York City. Can I build an ADU on the property when neither is owner occupied? Well, let's look it up. Let's look it up, and I will figure it out with you. Ocala ADU rules ordinance. So I'm just gonna check the ADU ordinance for Ocala, Florida, and in live. Sorry, I can't do like a screen share. And we'll just see what the rules are. Hey, Olga, I'm doing a live, but no worries. Come on through. So, looks like we have Municipal Code Library from Ocala. And we're gonna search for accessory dwelling unit to see if there's anything explicit. They have single-family attached dwelling units. They have development standards that explicitly mention accessory dwellings. All right. So there are some explicit rules, and then you're asking do you need it to be owner-occupied? All right, let's go check. Let's see if there's anything about owner-occupied rules. Accessory dwellings, okay. So this is only at a glance, I'm not reading the full rules, but in subdivision 3, the development standards, there is a thing that says accessory dwellings only permitted on lots with an occupied single-family dwelling. But what that doesn't say is owner-occupied, and so far, so good. It's just saying the main house can't be vacant. That's interesting. Okay. Anything else? Very interesting. All right. Yeah, so at first glance, I would say contact the planning department. Well, I'd always say contact the planning department, but it looks like contact the planning department and say, I'm interested in creating a new unit on this lot to rent out, and I want to know, is there anything I should look at in the municipal code? It looks like I'm good to go as an accessory dwelling unit, and just kind of talk to them. If they come back and say yes, then you're good. If they come back and say no, or that there's like lots of expensive requirements, then you can kind of like go back to these rules and say, what's making them say that? You can always also ask Ocala Planning, hey, what part of the municipal code is making you say that? Because I want to go and read and get full context so I don't waste your time. And a lot of the time, the city planning staff can't find a specific part of the code to back up their specific assertion, which helps. And other times they'll find up a very specific part of code and you go, okay, well now I know. Cameron, that's great to hear. Cool. KVK, after lot split, how do you get around having to build a 2-car garage for new build on the empty lot? Okay, so that's a complicated question, KVK. It depends on how you've split the lot. And then it also depends on what type of new unit you're building. And then it depends on the local rules. So from memory, you said you were in Fullerton? Yeah, I think. Yeah, okay. So you're in Fullerton. They're mean in a lot of ways. And so be careful. If you, let's just say hypothetically, I own a lot in Fullerton, California, and it's got a house and a big backyard. If I want to, I can split that lot with SB9, and now I have 2 lots. And I could build a house using SB9 on that new empty lot. If I stay under 800 square feet and use SB9, there are very specific limits on what Fullerton can require me to do for parking. If I exceed 800 square feet, instantly I'm kind of at Fullerton's mercy. I think that's the rule. It might be underlying zoning, but you know, the point is there's like up to a certain amount, I get to follow the state rules, and then beyond that amount, I'm at Fullerton's mercy. Alternatively, if before I split, I build an ADU on that half of the lot, and then I try to split, Fullerton might say, oh, you can't split the ADU from the main house. I'm not sure if there's a state rule that would prohibit them from saying that. So the order of operations and the placement of all these things matters a lot. And you don't want to ask like somebody like me who's free on YouTube and has no skin in your game to validate that. I'm like pretty up on this, and at the same time, places are constantly passing new rules. Like every month the city councils meet. I already got something wrong earlier in this video about JADs and 2533. Like, it's very hard to just know everything. You don't want somebody who knows it all. You want somebody who's going to work hard to get you the results you want. And so you got to find professionals locally who are used to dealing with the city of Fullerton and all its shenanigans, and do it that way. If you're doing it yourself, join that Facebook group. It's free. It's called How To ADU if you're on Facebook. And like I said, Chad, one of our longtime mods, volunteer moderator, has built multiple ADUs. Great guy in Fullerton. So good buddy to have if you're in there. Okay. So U.S. prop broker, are there only a few gospel resources for ADUs, or are there many layers, scattered sources based on jurisdictions? Is there at least a main body of regs to start my homework? Sacramento is, okay. So U.S. prop broker, it sounds like you're in California because you mentioned Sacramento, and there are 2 documents that you can read. Well, 2 is a weird word. The actual government code section about ADUs, that's a state level code, and it's hard to read, like it's written in government in legalese, but you can read it. Like anybody can figure out how it reads. And then the more important one is the State Agency on Housing and Community Development, the HCD, issues guidance. It's an ADU handbook. It looks like this. You can download it online for free. This is my gospel. I did a video about this one. The new edition came out in January, so you can totally read that. My videos about some of the smaller details that like you can, like with my kind of brain, you can, like, well, if they say this, then actually this. And so, but just skipping it on its own reveals a lot. And that's probably the one place. What's great is it also explains, hey, if a city doesn't agree with what we're saying in this handbook, use this form and tell us about the city. And that lets you tell the HCD, hey, communicate with my city, because my city is being rascally. Okay, So then Ethan Paul, huge appreciation for all the work. Oh, thank you. Thank you for watching. Is there any exciting ADU reforms or changes at the state level coming down the pipeline? San Diego just obliterated our ADU program, RIP, the bonus program. Hey, Ethan. So first, I will say thank you for watching. Second, San Diego is trying to obliterate the bonus ADU program. Let's watch this space because they still need to get their new ADU ordinance approved by HCD, and HCD can weigh in and say, I don't think they've replied yet, but HCD is certainly in a position to say, hey, these amendments are legal, these amendments are not in line with state code. The amendments that are legal are great. You know, they're updating things to allow for all the stuff that the state requires. They've also adopted separate sale of ADUs, which is huge. That's a big deal. And then separately, the state might just say, hey, you can't claw back the bonus program because that's a form of downzoning and it's in your housing element as how you're achieving your housing goals. So we'll watch and see what happens. But maybe San Diego is trying to torpedo their bonus program is a more accurate way to say it. Other exciting stuff coming down the pipeline mid-year, like we are. The big thing is cities adopting separate sale. As I mentioned, we've got San Jose, Santa Cruz, Berkeley, San Diego, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, and San Francisco had all adopted separate sale of ADUs as of August. And so that's really cool. It allows you to create starter homes with ADUs, and that's just, and you know, it makes them pencil a lot more easily sometimes. So you'll see more and more ADUs. Other than that, there are some bills this year. I don't like talking about them until they're passed because it confuses people because I leave these videos up for a long time. And it also, a lot of NIMBYs, like not in my backyard, people watch the channel. And I don't want to flag things for them that they can then go fight and torpedo at the last minute. So I try to avoid talking about stuff unless it's already done. So watch, you know, in October, I will make a video once the governor signs some new housing legislation. Other things that happened mid-session unexpectedly this year, we got some pretty good infill regulation, which means there are new ways to build housing within transit-oriented development and within existing cities that are not called ADUs, but they're very progressive rules. So that's really exciting. That happened as part of the budget fight in June or July. So that's really cool. And you know, the one that it's okay if I mention because everybody's already fighting it. If they don't like it, they already know about it. And if they do know about it, if they're like me, then they love it. It's called SB 79, and that would allow for big buildings to be built near mass transit, like a quarter mile away from mass transit, if it's like a permanent rail stop and stuff. That's a really exciting bill. So those are the big ones. There's also a couple bad things coming through the pipe. We killed one with the help of viewers of the channel. We got the author to withdraw and turn it into a 2-year bill, a thing that would have required homeowners to prove occupancy of their ADU for the first 10 years. So we got that done. There's a couple other not great ones, but that's not something that I'm spearheading personally. So yeah, that's the update. What's Chad's last name? I don't know if I should say that in public. just look up join the Facebook group and message me and I'll send it to you. I don't want to like dox this volunteer. Sometimes moderating the Facebook group is hard work. It's always hard work, and it's I really appreciate all the work Chad's done. You'll see him in the group. He's very active, but at the same time, I don't want people to go like find him if they're not active in the group and harass him. I get FaceTime calls and weird stuff all the time because of the work we put into moderating that free group. Fingers crossed for the housing element. Yeah, Ethan. You know, it's a controversial subject, but I certainly hope that San Diego allows for small bonus ADU projects. They seem like no-brainers, and I hope that they find a way to, what's the way to say this? I personally think that if they want to regulate housing, they should regulate all housing, not just ADUs or bonus ADUs. And I hope that the city also provides infrastructure and resources for the bonus ADUs that are going to be built, because some of them have already been permitted. And like, I don't want to see displacement, or I don't want to see any of the bad stuff that people worry about. And you know, I share their concern. I understand why people worry about their neighborhoods. But I do hope that we find a fair-minded way to solve that, statewide and community-wide and housing typology-wide, not just focus in on like this one ADU is the problem or this one rule is the problem, because a lot of the time, in my experience, people would not object to a mansion being built with 12 bedrooms, but then when it's 12 studio apartments, they get very upset. And you go, what's the difference there? What's the difference? Are you assuming that the mansion isn't going to have anybody living in it? Or is the difference that you like homeowner of mansion, but you don't like 12, you don't mind 12 people living in a mansion in one family, but if it's 12 strangers renting, you suddenly have a lot of qualms. A lot of the time, in my experience, there's a difference there. But not to say, no, I don't want to paint with a broad brush. There's projects in San Diego that have people really concerned in their neighborhoods, and so I empathize, but I hope we find a way that builds good quality housing, avoids displacing people, and can be regulated across the board, right? Like we put the same rules on all forms of housing. We don't single out one form of housing that we dislike versus another form of housing that we're like, oh, that's fine. Rich mansions, those are okay. They don't produce trash. They don't park cars. All right. Ethan says, separate sales so huge. Yeah, it is. And I totally get it. I'm in housing advocacy in San Diego, and you definitely don't want to give any extra ammo. Looking forward to SB 79. Yeah, exactly. You get it. You get it. And beyond ammo, I always say, hey, we're human, right? Like I'm 40 now, and like I've made decisions. Every time I've made a decision, a big decision that impacts other people, I try to make the best decision possible. But looking back, I made good decisions and I made bad decisions, right? And that's just normal for humans, right? And so knowing that some of the things I support today will turn out to be harmful to some people and beneficial to other people, I always want to keep an open mind. I always want to be respectful of every side of a debate about what we should do with public space and private land. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Paul Forbes, clarity question. Can I convert my attached garage on the house and make it an attached ADU with a kitchen? Or is that a JADU? I'm trying to better understand when a kitchen is okay. Okay, Paul. Let's break that out. Assuming you're in California, if you build something new today, it's not guaranteed that you can convert it later, right? That's the first thing. A lot of the conversion rules are based on something already existing, but it's not necessarily eliminating a possibility either. Separately, if you're converting something into a unit, can it be an attached ADU or is it automatically a JADU? That depends. Oh, okay, good. You're the one in Ocala. Sorry. So we got to just look at Ocala's rules. So California has really specific definitions for this thing called a junior ADU, and that's totally California centric, and it's arbitrary. Like even though they share 3 words, they are different things, and so it's very confusing. And hopefully Florida develops its own rule set and definitions without this level of confusion. But even in California, like just because it's converted out of existing space, that does not mean it's a junior. A lot of people say, oh, if it's a conversion, it's a junior, and that's not accurate. So just put that out of your mind. And unless Ocala has specific rules that define junior, differently, you don't even have to think about that. You really want to go to the planning department, because like I'm not a Florida guy, I'm not a Florida man, so you really want to talk to the Ocala planning department. Look up your municipal code. You can Google it. You can search it for junior accessory dwelling unit, and you can get your rules that way. Hopefully that makes sense. And then, yeah, if they do have specific rules, they'll differentiate there. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. And thank you all for attending. Thank you for your lively questions. And I hope this was fun. It's always good to do a free Friday. And let's